The Indiana Fever, they've shown to be very, very inconsistent this season, and it's disappointing. Like, it sucks because a lot of fans were so excited about this season.
Imagine being the face of an entire league, a player who sold out arenas before ever playing a pro game, only to be treated like a side character on your own team. That's the bizarre reality Caitlin Clark is living right now with the Indiana Fever. And it's starting to look like the person holding her back isn't wearing the opposing team's jersey. It's her own head coach, Stephanie White.
But I will forever not understand it, and I feel like if you have a player like Caitlin Clark, you have to play her to her strengths. There is one style of basketball that works for Caitlin Clark, and if you're not going to use her as the superstar that she is and the style of play that works for her, then you're doing a disservice not only to her, but...
That's right, but here's what's going to shock you. This isn't just about basketball disagreements anymore. We're talking about heated locker room confrontations, viral footage of Clark literally ignoring assistant coaches, and a coaching philosophy so backwards it's actually sabotaging the most electrifying talent women's basketball has ever seen. And if you think this story can't get any wilder, just wait until you hear what happened at that July 14th practice session. Now, I get it. Coaches and players don't always see eye to eye, but this feels personal. Something deeper is going on in Indiana. And if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss the unraveling of what could have been the most electrifying team in the WNBA.
We're in the street as Caitlin Clark told White to sit Kelsey Mitchell and Howard they don't pass. Could be true. Caitlin went the tire shoe. Like, that is something that I noticed.
The strategy makes no sense. You don't take a floor general like Caitlin Clark and make her play off ball so someone else can run the offense. That's like telling Steph Curry to stop shooting and focus on setting screens. It's basketball sabotage. And fans have had enough. Look at what happened in that devastating loss to the Golden State Valkyries, an expansion team that shouldn't even be competitive yet. The Fever got demolished 80-61, and it was Clark's triumphant return from injury. This was supposed to be a celebration, a statement game. Instead, it became a masterclass in how to waste generational talent. White made a decision that had everyone scratching their heads. She decided to bench Lexi Hull, one of the team's most consistent defenders and three-point threats. Hull had been starting for most of the season, was the perfect complement to Clark's style, spaced the floor beautifully, and played lockdown defense. But White threw all of that out the window to start Aari McDonald at point guard instead.
Wasn't really working. Taking Lexi out of that starting lineup, in my opinion, was not the best decision.
Think about this for a second. 3 weeks before that game, Aari McDonald wasn't even on a WNBA roster. The entire Fever roster was healthy, and White decided to play McDonald 18 minutes in the first half. This forced Clark to play off-ball at small forward instead of her natural position as point guard. How can you not let a generational player play the position where she excels the most? The result was predictable chaos. The offense became stagnant almost immediately. Clark couldn't find her rhythm, the ball movement disappeared, and the team lost its identity in one move. Clark is a point guard. That's where she makes magic happen, where she controls the game. White took that away from her and acted surprised when everything fell apart. But here's the part that's going to make you furious. After this embarrassing loss, White stood at the post-game podium and blamed everyone except herself. She looked directly into the cameras and said, "I was disappointed because I felt like there was a lack of competitive fire. Our attention to detail was poor. I'm not sure if it's not knowing the game plan, as much as not executing the game plan." She didn't stop there. She continued attacking her team's effort, calling them undisciplined, and questioning their competitive fire. These words hit like a slap in the face to players who had just given everything they had. Meanwhile, Clark took full responsibility in her own interview, saying they struggled to do what the coaches asked of them. She didn't blame anyone else. She looked for solutions instead of excuses. The contrast was stark and telling, the star player showing maturity and leadership while the coach pointed fingers and deflected blame. Clark admitted they struggled to execute the game plan, acknowledged the offensive struggles, and took ownership of the team's failures. But White? She made zero mention of her own strategic failures. No accountability for benching Hull. No explanation for the McDonald experiment that clearly didn't work. No acknowledgement that her coaching decisions might have contributed to the loss. She acted like her tactical choices existed in a vacuum, completely separate from the team's performance. And this is where the philosophical divide becomes crystal clear. White wants a system where everyone gets their turn, where the ball moves in perfect harmony, where no one player dominates. But Caitlin Clark isn't everyone. She's the reason we're even talking about the Indiana Fever. She's the reason anyone outside of Indiana watches their games. She's the reason arenas sell out and ratings spike. The offense should be running through her, not around her. When Clark is on the bench or playing off-ball, the offense collapses. When she gets touches and controls the game, the team flows. It's not complicated basketball science, it's common sense. But White keeps insisting on spreading the ball around like everyone on this roster has MVP potential. Here's what's really happening, and this is the part that should terrify every Fever fan. Clark is averaging 18.2 points and 8.9 assists per game this season, which sounds impressive until you realize her usage rate has nosedived nearly 20% from her rookie campaign. Her scoring average has dipped, her assists are stuck in neutral, and her court vision, the thing that lit up sold-out crowds, now seems blurred by clogged lanes and confused rotations. Watch her closely during games now. Every time Clark touches the ball, you see her second-guessing. Teammates miss cuts. Screens show up late, or not at all. Defenders crowd her immediately, daring her to do something heroic while the rest of the Fever stand frozen. This isn't the confident maestro who pulled defenders 28 feet from the hoop, forcing help rotations that left shooters wide open. The wildest part? Even with all this dysfunction, Caitlyn's still putting up numbers. 17 points, 8 assists, night in and night out. And that's with defenders targeting her and a scheme that keeps cutting her off at the knees. Imagine what she could do if she was actually empowered, if the system was built around her instead of designed to contain her. But here's where the story takes an even more interesting turn. After that Valkyrie's loss, controversial analyst Jason Whitlock dropped a bombshell that sent shockwaves through the basketball world. He didn't just criticize White's coaching, he accused her of being part of a deliberate plot to destroy Caitlin Clark. At this point, you have to consider the possibility that the Indiana Fever are in on the plot to destroy Caitlin Clark. Whitlock said, "Stephanie White is an idiot, should be fired. This woman played Aari McDonald 18 minutes in the first half. 3 weeks ago, Aari McDonald wasn't on a WNBA roster. The entire Fever roster is healthy, and Aari McDonald plays 18 minutes in the first half, throws the chemistry between Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston completely out the window." Now, whether you agree with Whitlock or not, his central point is undeniable. White's decisions are actively hurting Clark's game and the team's chemistry. McDonald's increased role disrupted the partnership between Clark and Aaliyah Boston that had been crucial to the team's success. That partnership was built over time, through game reps and shared experiences. White threw all of that away for an experiment that failed spectacularly. Now White has brought that same failed philosophy to the WNBA, except this time the entire basketball world is watching. Front-page columnists, primetime cameras, global sponsors, all waiting to see the Indiana Fever blossom around their golden goose. Instead, they're getting deja vu. A roster brimming with promise is floundering, weighed down by systems designed to democratize brilliance rather than weaponize it. The evidence is everywhere if you know where to look. Social media has basically turned into a digital insurrection. Under every Fever post, "Free Caitlin" lights up like Times Square. One exasperated fan commented, "Release our star or release our money back." Another pledged to boycott the entire season until changes are made. Even casual fans who couldn't explain a horn set from a stagger screen can sense something's fundamentally wrong. Meanwhile, insiders whisper that people at the league office are genuinely worried that Indiana's dysfunction could cost them the one star capable of propelling the entire sport into its next golden era. This isn't some niche controversy. This is a potential disaster that could set women's basketball back years. And the most infuriating part? The solution is so simple it hurts. Hand Clark the ball. Trust her basketball IQ. Craft sets where she dictates pace and hunts mismatches. Let her make teammates better through her gravitational pull. This isn't rocket science. It's basketball 101. Look at the modern WNBA's most successful teams. The Las Vegas Aces build everything around Aja Wilson's dominance. The New York Liberty pivot their entire game plan around Breanna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu's two-woman brilliance. Seattle thrived for years by putting the ball in Sue Bird's hands when games were on the line. These teams didn't shrink their superstars to fit some egalitarian ideal. They used their stars to elevate everyone else. But here's what's really happening behind the scenes. And this is the part that should terrify every Fever fan. Clark's frustration isn't just about basketball anymore. Sources close to the team say she's been fielding questions about her long-term future in Indiana. Agents are starting to circle. Other franchises are making subtle inquiries about what it would take to acquire her services. The writing is on the wall, and it's getting harder to ignore. Either Indiana chooses their star or they risk losing her. Because make no mistake, if they don't fix this, Caitlin Clark will walk. And when she does, those sold-out arenas will go back to being empty. The hype will disappear overnight. The Fever will be right back where they were before she showed up, completely irrelevant. Remember, in 2023, the Indiana Fever averaged 4,000 people in attendance for home games. 4,000 people. Now they're selling out 17,000-seat arenas because of one player. One player who's being systematically undermined by her own coaching staff. It's the kind of organizational malpractice that should cost people their jobs. So what's it gonna be? Will they finally let Caitlyn be Caitlyn? Will they build the system around their superstar instead of trying to fit their superstar into a broken system? Or are we watching the slow destruction of something truly special? If you're tired of watching Clark get buried in a system that actively works against her greatness, smash that like button, drop Free Caitlyn in the comments, and subscribe because this saga is far from over. The next few weeks are going to be crucial, and you're going to want to see how this all plays out. Thanks for watching.